One of the most difficult things to master is when those thoughts come in and there is a good reason to think on those things, and there is a feeling attached to it too. So you're just like, how can I actually shove this aside? So do you have any sort of tricks that you kind of practice in order to, or is it just kind of a pep talk? Like,
I think I just pep talk myself. And I started actually, it was a challenge that was given in one of the teams that said, wake up in the morning and maybe I read it somewhere, I don't know, smile and, speak words of gratitude. That if you start your day out like that, I feel like it's easier to sort of breathe through the hills and valleys that you go through, but life is full of that. So you just think whatever works for a person. For me, it's just the deep breath.
So there's two major streams of Buddhism, Theravada and Mahayana. And the Theravada, it's probably the tradition closest to what the actual historical person, the Buddha, taught. Mahayana breaks away, and they start to incorporate things that were missing, I think, that are important for the human psyche. Like the connectedness of the divine with the human. It's like they were grasping for stuff that they weren't able to get from Theravada Buddhism. And one of the things that's really interesting are the three bodies of the Buddha. And they really do closely correspond with the three persons of the Christian Trinity. And so what goes through my mind as I'm studying for that class is, look, there's something important about the connection of that human person being indwelt with the fullness of the divine,
right?
And the way that it makes the divine more relatable.
And my mother, bless her heart, I've just given her a lot of grief, but I talk to her more now than ever, and she's always loving me on the phone. I love you, Larry. I love you, Larry. And then later my sister said, you were always one of her favorites. And I said, I don't believe that for a sec. But it's nice to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to hear. But, I'm grateful to my parents, because if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here. And I honestly think they did the best they could. And at that point, you can't fault them. You can't go and say, hey, you owe me an apology, or, I need to forgive you for a terrible upbringing.
Right.
I need to ask them to forgive me sometimes for the way that I've missed the reality that I would not be here without them.
Right.
And I'm grateful for that. And I'm glad you're here. See, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for Ryan and my kids and my church and my community. I'm just a pretty happy guy.
I mean, when you start, it's like a snowball. When you start that's why a lot of times people who maybe are going through a difficult time, a big piece of advice is try to write down things to be grateful for. Because when it's like a brain shift, when you start to think and see things for the good versus the bad. Now, that's not saying ignore the bad and just pretend it's not there. That's not saying that. It's saying acknowledge it, but move past it.
Right.
And focus instead on the good parts. And if you look hard enough, you can find them.